There's a passage, there's a scene in the film where the brother comes to the prison to visit Hurricane, and he talks about what that book meant to him. And he said, you know, I found that book in a bookstore. And Hurricane, or Denzel, said, well, you know, sometimes we don't find books. Sometimes books find us. Okay? Books find us. And when you understand the power of books, when an author writes a book, their spirit goes into that book. And as you're reading, that spirit goes into your consciousness. And that spirit makes connections with your consciousness that allows you to begin to understand things that you never thought you could understand. You don't get that from watching television. You don't get that from most movies, because that is a passive activity. When you watch television or watch a film, you literally submit your consciousness to whatever is on that screen. But when you read a book, you have to engage both hemispheres of your brain to process the words that are on the page and then to comprehend their meaning. So reading is something that I am a strong advocate of, particularly since I write books now, and I want you all to buy my books. It helps if we cultivate the habit, the good habit of reading, and let our children watch us read so that they can begin to understand that everything that they need to know is in a book somewhere. And as they're seeking questions throughout their lives, they know where they can find it, in the library or in the bookstore. Somewhere, the knowledge that they are looking for is also looking for them. Okay? So let's move into the presentation for the evening, which is a discussion on the DaVinci Code, the book, the film, the phenomena. As the sister mentioned when she introduced me, I'm going to talk about the movie. I'm going to analyze specific aspects of the book and the film and the phenomenon, but more importantly, I want to look at it from an African perspective, because that's who I am. That's who I am. That's what I do. So there's information contained within the book, within the film. There's information and energy that has been generated as a result of the interest in the book and the film that affects all of us, whether we are conscious of it or not. So I want to expose you all to some of the things that I found within the book and the film, and ask you to receive this information with an open mind and an open heart. And at the end of my presentation, we'll open the floor for Q&A, and we can dialogue a little bit more about some of the issues that I'll raise in the presentation. Is that fair? Okay, great. Well, let's move forward. Make sure technology is working here. Okay. And for some reason, bear with me 1 second. All right, I will move on to plan B. All right, we're looking at DaVinci Code, the book, the movie, the phenomenon, and we're going to be talking about why this book has become such a popular piece of literature. If we understand, the book has become so popular that it has generated over $2.25 billion over a period of 3 years. Over 6.5 million copies, hardcover copies of the book have been purchased since it first appeared in April of 2003. It has been translated into 44 languages and has been on the New York Times bestsellers list for 3 years, which is a literary phenomenon. The book, as I said here, has generated $1.25 billion, and that consists of $300 million in hardcover sales, $95 million in paperback sales, and the paperback sales also comprises over 90 different titles of books that were written on subject matters that relate to the DaVinci Code, either critiques of the book or more in-depth analysis of some of the themes that were raised in the book. So many people have generated income off of this profound book. There are a number of other DaVinci-related products that have been sold, that have sold over $30 million. And then we have 15 million has been made in the audio book as well as the special editions of the book. For those of you all who haven't read the book yet, I would encourage you to buy the special illustrated edition of the DaVinci Code. As a result of the strength of the novel, the publisher decided to publish an illustrated edition of the book, which illustrates many of the images, the architectural sites, and other objects that were discussed in the book. So it's a wonderful way to read the book and also get a better understanding of the things that Dan Brown was talking about in the novel. The film has generated $700 million since its release on May 19th of this year. So in a little bit over 2 months, the film has made 1.5 times more money than 3 years of hardback and paperback book sales. That is truly a phenomenon. And as a result of the strength of the sales of the movie tickets, and the book, then publishers are already lined up to produce films of Dan Brown's earlier novels featuring Robert Langdon, as well as they're preparing to make future book deals or future movie deals of his forthcoming novel, which I'll talk about later on in my presentation. Dan Brown, the author of this book, has made over $75 million, which is not bad for a year's work. It took him a year to write the book. His wife does most of the research for his books, so they didn't do bad for a novel. $75 million generated in about 3 years' time. And so the question is, who is Dan Brown? Who is this man? Dan Brown is a 41-year-old former high school teacher. He's a product of Phillips Exeter Academy, which is one of the premier private schools in New England. This is the private school where wealthy people send their children so that their children can run their Fortune 500 corporations and run nations. So he didn't receive the type of education that you and I received. He received a superior education. What else is interesting is that Dan Brown graduated from Amherst College and he studied art history at the University of Seville in Spain. He wrote his first novel called Digital Fortress in 1998, and in 2000 he published Angels and Demons. His next film, the next film on Dan Brown's work, is going to be Angels and Demons, which was the first book that he authored that featured Robert Langdon, the central figure in the DaVinci Code. This book, Angels and Demons, also featured a very interesting and profound form of calligraphy that one of Dan Brown's close friends created. It's an art form called ambiograms. And ambiograms, which are featured in this novel, Angels and Demons, are words which spell the same or read the same as they're read right side up and upside down. So Dan Brown he has a background in art. He has a background in art history. His mother was a teacher of sacred music. His father was an instructor in mathematics. So he grew up in a household where education was highly cherished. He grew up in a family where art history was thoroughly understood and enjoyed, as well as music, the sacred forms that were encoded in music. So he comes to this profession with a great deal of skill and expertise, which is evident in his works. Dan Brown's third novel was called Deception Point, and it was published in 2001. All three of these novels sold a total of 20,000 copies. Then came the DaVinci Code, and he hit pay dirt. It took him about 5 years to really get his writing thing together. And then he put all of his talent into the writing of the DaVinci Code. Since the DaVinci Code has come out, as we said, it's been an international bestseller. And it has caused rigorous debate among academicians, among theologians, art critics, scholars, and other people. The book has spawned, as I mentioned earlier, a film. It spawned a number of takeoff books, or books that that analyze